$201,158. That is how much, on average, a Facebook entry-level engineer makes in a year. And you can see the breakdown right here. $142,000 in salary, $43,000 in stock, and $15,000 in bonuses. If you want to make this kind of money, you want to start traveling, you want to start going on vacation, you want to just have a nicer life for yourself, more hours back in the day. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly how to know when you are ready to start applying, how to know that you are competent enough to be an engineer in your entry-level role. And the reason I'm making this video is because I know when I was coming up, I had plenty of imposter syndrome. I didn't know if I was good enough. I didn't know who I was competing against or what was going on. So in this video, I'm going to break down these skills, what you need to be able to do if you want to make it as a web developer, if you want to make it as a software engineer. Now, if you don't know me, my name is Jake, and I am an ex-Amazon engineer, and I'm making these videos to help you break into tech, to help you switch careers and unlock this engineering lifestyle for yourself. All right. And so this Facebook salary, it is kind of top of the line for entry level, right? There's also Amazon, 180K here. There's Google, 198K. And there's plenty of other companies paying these insane amounts for entry level talent. Okay. And so let's think about the game here. I mean, if you can become talented enough, you become the skilled, you network enough, you can get into these different roles where you can start earning whatever. I mean, you see these salaries coming in here. Massachusetts, Washington, Michigan, jobs all over the place, all right? You know, you pull up these Apple salaries, 164K. I mean, it's just wild. And you can do this. Let's go to the whiteboard here and let's talk about some truth of what you actually need to be able to do, all right? So before we start, there's kind of two disciplines of software engineering if we're referring to web development, all right? There is front end and there is back end, okay? So you might be like, oh, I already know what this is. Bear with me for a second before I get to the good stuff here, all right? So there is front end and there is back end. What does front end mean? That means you are touching everything that the user is going to see on a website. So like, for example, if you are a front end developer building this whiteboard here, you might display this pencil element. You might display this eraser element. You might display all these icons, so on and so forth, all right? And you're responsible for animating it, styling it, whatever. Now, the back end of this, let's say you need to go and save a whiteboard. Let's say you need to create an account. Let's say you need to save things in a database to manipulate the data that the front end is giving you, right? So that's what back end engineers do. And then there's what's called a full stack developer, all right? So a full stack is comfortable making changes across the entire stack. That usually means they have competency in databases, in making APIs, and also in front end components, building websites, actually making elements, components, things like that. And they're comfortable making changes across the stack, okay? So for your purposes, if you're not yet in tech, you haven't yet chosen what to do or what to study to break into tech, to get into the industry as quickly as possible, front end is what I would recommend. And I recommend it because personally, I'm biased. That's the way I got in. That's the way that I've seen has worked for me to get a decent salary at a young age, right? And so I'm making these videos because I assume if you're watching this right now, you're wanting to make more, you're wanting a little more flexibility in your life, and you want to get into tech, right? So let's double click into this front ends here, and let's talk about what it actually takes, what it looks like, the skills you're going to need, languages you need to learn, what the day-to-day looks like, so on and so forth, all right? Let's write this right here. So as a front end developer, let's first start with what the day-to-day looks like, and then we'll jump into what you should actually feel comfortable doing, the skills that you should have before you actually get into a role. So as a front end developer, there's mostly just three skills that you need to be capable of doing or be pretty comfortable with, or at least comfortable solving the problem if you're presented with it on the job. The first is making components, right? So what do I mean when I say making components? That's taking a Figma design, taking some sort of design and turning it into actual website code, all right? So making components here. And what does that actually look like in practice? That usually means taking a Figma design and turning it into code, okay? This is the bulk of your job, to take a given design from a designer and translate that into a website so that your code can be used on the website, so that it can automate service, so that it can make a website look good, so on and so forth. Each business has their own purposes and why they need the website or the code built, right? So that is the number one role of a front-end developer. That is the bread and butter right there, is taking designs, turning it into code. Now, the second thing that you need to be aware of, or you need to be comfortable with as a front-end developer, is actually managing state. What does that actually mean? Basically, in your front end, there's going to be a whole I guess, field of different variables with different values and different amounts and strings and values and across the entire site. All right. And as the front end developer, you need to be able to keep track of what different things on the site have different values. And when I'm talking about variables, if you're not familiar, it's things like, x equals 5 or amounts equals 10, just basic things like that. You're going to have different states all across the website, and you have to feel comfortable manipulating variables, changing things around, manipulating the data given to you on the front end in such a way that is meaningful to a business. And I know this is abstract if you've never, I guess, kind of worked on a code base, but this is how you start to manipulate logic and data on the front ends, right? And this is important, and it's going to lead us to the third biggest thing or skill you need to feel comfortable with as a front end developer, and that is form handling. Okay. So what does that mean? All right. That means basically, if you can imagine, like, you go to the doctor's office, what are they going to have you do? They're going to have you fill out a form. They're going to put your name, what's your age, what's your weight, so on and so forth. And then you hand it over to the receptionist or whoever's taking your data. It is the same thing with the website. Every website operates with forms and essentially APIs. Okay. So you're going to need to manage states so that you can use forms to send data to the backend. All right. So this is basically taking user data, giving it to the backend. And how does that actually work in practice in code? Well, you give data through a form through an API. Okay. And if you don't know what API is, or you're not familiar with backends, that's okay. Just understand that these are the 3 skills that you need to feel comfortable actually doing if you want to be a front-end developer, right? So let's go ahead. We're going to erase this stuff right here on the right. Actually, what does that look like? If you're trying to get ready for a job, if you're wanting to break into tech, like whatever, what does that actually look like for you? So when do you know that you are job ready? So for components, the best way that you know that you are ready is you can take any given website. So if you were to go to netflix.com and you see this website here, you would feel comfortable saying, hey, look, I can actually make a clone of this. I can build this front end myself. I might not be able to stream the videos and do all that yet, but I can make this component. I can make this component. I can make this component, this div, this drop down, so on and so forth. You should feel comfortable actually cloning the layout of a website, aligning different items, different components on the screen, and basically cloning any design. All right. So if you can turn a design into a static site, you have checked this box, and you should be able to get to that point. I won't say like quickly, it takes practice and it takes effort here, but you should be able to do that within weeks, basically. And it may take some help from Claude. It may take some help with Googling. It may take time. You may be slow at doing it, but you can figure it out because you understand the box model. You understand how elements are laid out on the screen, and you can reason to different conclusions. You can style stuff on the page. All right. And so the specific skills or languages rather that you're going to need here is just HTML and CSS for the most parts, right? Just HTML and CSS. Okay. So that is the basics. And that's why I say in pretty much every video, it's like, if you're going to go and learn any skills, any languages, you need to start with a fundamental understanding of HTML and CSS is because it underpins everything you do as a front-end developer. And so that leads me to the second skill that's going to make you job ready in managing states. What does that mean? That means, for example, if we're looking at our Netflix example here, if we go and click sign in, what do you think this is right here? What do you think that is right there? Email or phone number, password. This is a form, right? So when a user comes in and types stuff in, ASD, whatever, let's say my name here, in your front end code, you're going to have the state of like email equals my name here. So you are keeping track of state, my password here. And obviously you can't see it and we got different things, but this, remember me, this is a Boolean. This is a true or false value. Okay. And so you need to feel comfortable managing things like when a user inputs data, when you get data back from an API, you need to understand how variables work, how if statements work, conditionals, logic, loops, things like that. You need to understand how it works. Okay. So if you can properly manage getting data from an API and manipulating that, right? So, and if you don't know what an API is, I'll make another video on that explaining what's going on there and why it matters. And the second is managing user input data. So like in our example right there, the user is going to input an email, a password, so on and so forth. If you feel comfortable getting that data and then maybe changing it a little bit, changing it to something else, prepping it for, an API call or whatever, you need to feel comfortable doing that, right? In managing state, really the main reason you need to be able to manage states is for two things, like UX and then making API requests. And that brings me to my third bullet. And this could really be called making making API requests. As a front-end engineer, you're going to be making a lot of API requests. You're going to be getting data, you're going to be putting data up in the cloud, whatever, but you need to be comfortable with form handling, all right? So in our Netflix example here, when you type in, your email and you type in your password and then you actually click sign in, what's going to happen is that data from the front end is going to be sent over to the back end, right? So the back end can perform logic so that it can actually log you in, so that it can give you a web token or whatever, so that it knows who you are, all right? So you would be responsible for actually sending that data across, right? So if you look in your network tab here, you clear this out and you click sign in, you're going to see this post request. In the post request, you can see that ASSFTA, you can see the password right there. So these are the user input values. So as a front-end engineer, you would be responsible for actually manipulating that data, making sure it makes its way to the API, right? So that is the third skill that you need to be comfortable with, making get and post request. And so what does that actually look like in practice? Both of these are going to be JavaScript. They are going to be written in JavaScript, and you're going to be making different fetch calls, maybe Axios calls, whatever. It doesn't matter. They're all fundamentally the same, right? They solve the same problems. And so, when I make these videos and I harp on over and over and over again, what you actually need as a web developer, specifically front ends, you need these three things, right? You need to know how to do the UI part of websites, which is basically this making components part. So this is UI. And then you need to be able to do the UX, right? That is animating stuff on the screen. That is managing state. That is form handling, sending data to APIs, getting data from APIs, so that we can actually make a meaningful user interaction with the website, so that we can essentially go and make the business money, right? Because we can never forget about that. The reason that, these companies can pay so much, Apple can pay so much, Amazon, Facebook, Google, all these companies can pay so much, Bosch, is because you are making them money. All right. Your websites, your code is making the business more efficient. It's making the business more profitable so that they make more money. And as a result, you can make more money because you are valuable to the business, right? You make them more money, they pay you money. That's how it works. You make a lot of money and then you go and live happily ever after. You go and give your family a great life. You go and give your girlfriend great date nights, whatever it is you want. I don't know what you want, but this is how you are going to know that you are job ready as a front end engineer. Okay. So these are the three things right here. If you have any questions, drop it below in the comments. I will make sure to read and respond to every single one of them. And if you want my personal help breaking into the industry, you want one-on-one care and attention, and you want me to actually hold your hand to help you get into this industry to start earning whatever it is you want or whatever it is you deserve, then go ahead, click the link down below in the description. We'll speak one-on-one. We'll just have a conversation. There's nothing to sell you here. I will help you in the best way possible, point you to resources, be that working with me, be that something else, and we will make sure that you get to where you want to go. All right. So thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.